So after your layouts are made and your instructor checks it off, what we're going to do is we're going to cut this into 4 chunks. So in between these 2 lines right here, we're going to go ahead on the miter saw, we're going to do a cross cut. So right down the middle, right there. Right down the middle, right there. And right down the middle, right there. So this is really step 6, and it's called crosscut. All right, so you can see we've got our 4 chunks. The next thing we want to do is we need to cut the miters. So we're going to stand it up on the miter saw, and we're going to cut this at a 45-degree angle. The objective of our next operation is to get 2 exact matching pairs. The left and the right should exactly match each other, along with the front and the back. So here we are at the miter saw. We're not going to use the sliding miter saw to cut our miters. We're just going to use the simpler miter saw, just straight up and down. First thing I want to point out is underneath here there's a little metal tab, and we're going to have to swing our miter saw back and forth from one 45-degree angle to the other 45-degree angle. So what you do is you just lift up on this tab and you slide it, and you'll find if I just start sliding and I push it, it locks in to 45 degrees. So if you look down in this little window right here, it says 45 degrees. So again, we're going to have to slide it in both directions, and you'll hear it. It'll lock down, and you have to check to see if it's 45. So what we're going to do, we're going to cut always on the left side of the saw, just because the left side of the saw has this nice big tall fence. And if you notice, I've got this red line right here. That's going to be kind of important to us in a minute. All right, and you can see my layout line from my miter. So what we're going to do is, without turning this thing on, we bring the blade down, and you can see right now that my saw blade is right next to that angled line. It's on the outside of that angled line, and that's exactly where I want to cut. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of hold that in position, and what we need to do is we need to clamp our work right at that red mark. We're going to use this quick clamp. All right, and maybe I'll just change angles here just a little bit. Sorry for that bump in the road. All right, so here's what the quick clamp looks like. It's got a couple different levers, right? We got this black lever, the big black lever, and then the small metal one. So the small metal one down here releases it, all right? And then tighten it back up. You kind of just pump it. Okay, and what we want to do, once you are sure that you have your board in the right position, we want to really pump this and make sure it's secure. Another thing we want to look for, right? We know we're lined up in the right spot. It's now locked up against the fence. We also want to look down here and then make sure that it's sitting flat down on the table. Right, so that should be nice and flat down on the table. So I think I'm all set. I'm ready to cut my first miter. Your left hand is always going to go on the left side of this clamp. All right, and here I'm still going to hold on to the fence, and I'm still going to hold on to my board. All right, and what we're going to do is we're going to start the blade, of course, when we're up in the air. All right, and watch this. So I'm going to go down slow, and then I'm going to wait until this thing stops spinning before I lift the blade back up. All right, again, notice I waited till the blade stopped spinning before I lifted that thing back up. So what I'm going to suggest is that we do all what I'm going to call the right hand cuts to start with. So I just loosen this up, slide it out of the way. Maybe I'll grab one of my shorter pieces. Get it where you want it. Tighten the clamp down really good. It's up against the fence. I'm checking down here in the bottom. It's flat on the table. So this is the short piece. This is our left or our right side. So again, your hand has to be on the left side of this blue clamp. I kind of grab onto the clamp and I'm taking my thumb. And I'm still putting pressure down on this board to make sure that it doesn't move. So my suggestion, let's do all 4 pieces on the right hand side. Alright, I just finished cutting all my right hand miters. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to release the clamp. And I'm going to pull the clamp right off. Now what I need to do is change from a right hand miter to a left hand miter. So again, I move that to 45. And this cut is what we call the pinch cut. Okay, so the blade is really close to this fence here. And what we have to do to cut this angle is we flip this thing around. We flip it around, and now you can see that my angle, my miter, is lined up with my saw. Put the saw blade next to my miter, and now what we need to do is we need to put the clamp on, but this time we take the clamp and the bar, this part, has to be facing backwards. Okay, we're all set. My left hand is going to go here. Same procedure, go relatively slow and make sure that it stops spinning before you raise up the blade. And you're going to do that for the 3 remaining pieces. So I have all my miters cut. And then what we're going to do, remember our main objective was make sure that the left and the right are the exact same length. So what I just did is I stacked them up here, and you could see that these things, this side here is flush, this side's flush, so these are the exact same length. And the front and the back, you can see I got those lined up, and those are nice. If they're not exactly lined up, come see me and we will tune up your miters so that we get 2 matching pairs. So today what we did step 6. What we just did was a cross cut on the miter saw. My notes here was said between the layout lines, and maybe I could do this 3 times. We need to do that 3 separate times. And then what we did is we cut our miters. Step number 7, we cut the miters. We used the miter saw. What kind of notes should we put on there? It's a 45-degree angle. Use the clamps. Make sure it's flat on the table. Stuff like that. So what you want to do is you want to add to your process planning worksheet for the box. I believe you can just, if you've already turned it in, you can unsubmit it and add some more pieces to it. Let me know how that goes. I'm curious to see if that's actually going to work or not. All right, next step in the process, we will be cutting dados.